Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Soul Seekers podcast, where we believe that hunting has the power to transform lives through primal adventure as we share our mission of mentorship is conservation. To learn more about everything we do, check out our show on Carbon TV or go to soulseekersnation.com. Freedom on, everybody, and stay soulful. Do you want to become a better shooter, reduce flinch, protect your ears, and just overall enjoy shooting your gun that much more? Then there's no better way to do that than by adding a suppressor to the end of your barrel. Be sure to check out Huxworks Safety Company, as they are a leader in the suppressor world with their OSS flow-through technology, virtually eliminating blowback and toxic gas that can affect weapon system performance and shooter health. To find out more about Huxworks, go to huxwrx.com. That's huxworks.com, and go get yourself a suppressor for your upcoming hunts. This podcast is also proudly brought to you by onX Hunt. When I first got into hunting, I kept hearing all about public land and different access and how to find different locations to hunt. I was like, well, how are people even identifying all this stuff? Well, sure enough, I came across the number one hunting GPS app, and that is onX Hunt. If you guys want to get better at hunting and go deeper into your scouting, onX Hunt is the number one GPS app for that. Join the millions of hunters who trust onX Hunt to find more game, discover new access, and hunt smarter. It was a game changer for me, and I know it's going to be a game changer for you if you've never used it. If you have used it, you know the power that it holds. Guys, I really hope you enjoy this episode. If you want to know more about onX, go to onxmaps.com/hunt. and check out their app. Be blessed, freedom on, and stay soulful. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Soul Seekers podcast. I'm your host, Johnny Mack, and today I have someone who I have wanted to get on this podcast for quite some time, because the origin of me starting my hunting journey started with coyotes. Yeah, I had an AR. I've always been a freedom-loving individual, a Second Amendment believer. And an AR is just a natural, beautiful right that we get to have. And you get tired of shooting paper after a while. And so when you get your hunting license and you realize, well, it's not deer season right now, or it's not elk season, it's like, what do you go shoot? You shoot coyotes, because they're open year round all the time. And it is one of the most engaging and exciting animals to hunt. Nothing better than outsmarting a predator. So on today's episode, I am joined by the man himself, Levi Johnson, and we're going to be talking all about coyote hunting and dogging with Levi. Levi, what's up, brother? How you doing?
Awesome, buddy. Thanks for having me.
Oh, absolute pleasure. Come on now.
Yeah.
Nothing beats a couple of freedom-loving individuals getting together for a good time.
That's right.
So what's happening up in Montana right now with you?
You know, right now it's actually beautiful weather. Believe it or not, it's 40 degrees during the day, which is unheard of. It gets down to 20 at night. No snow. Pretty much it's all gone. A little icy. But, yeah, it's been good. You know, what was it, 10 or 12 days ago, it was crazy weather.
Do you get in the negatives where you're out a lot?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Yeah, this year we haven't seen it that way, but I've seen it 23 below for 2 weeks.
Oof.
Yeah, I don't know, we're in that weird weather pattern right now, so we got super cold everywhere, lots of wind, roads were shitty, but now we're back in God's country, the sun's shining, the coyotes are howling, so.
Yes, I love it.
Yeah.
I walked out of my building today, but I work in a building right now. For all you listeners out there, I fell back into teaching for a short little bit, and I'm a security guard in I'm a teacher. I'm a social studies teacher in a alternative school.
Right.
So, got kids with ankle monitors on and metal detectors and all this stuff. It's awesome. Great humans, but no windows. And so I walked outside today, and it was 77 and blue sky. And I'm like, yes, I missed you. Come on now.
Yeah, I would miss that. That would be nice.
Yeah. So, brother, what do you do as a day job? I mean, you can't hunting coyotes pays the bills. I'm sure maybe a little if there's a bounty on the pelts or whatever, but what do you do with the rest of your time?
So my job from 8 to 5 or actually 7 to 3:30 is I work for Montana Department of Transportation for maintenance. Best job in the world, great bunch of guys. and it's a government job and absolutely love it. So when I'm not doing that, then we're out hunting coyotes as much as we can get out, and also big game. If you follow us on our social sites and our YouTube channel and Carbon TV and on our Waypoint TV, we love archery hunting elk and deer, and I mean we chase everything. Turkeys, just love it, but our true passion is hunting coyotes in the summertime. Over our dogs.
In the summertime. So we're gonna get into that because there's a lot to be said. Um, I'm a huge fan of Al Morris. Big Al Morris has been on the
Big
podcast.
Santa Claus, yep.
Yep, a few different times, and that was actually how I came across you and everything that you do because he came out. I think would imagine it was Montana and decoy dogged with you.
Yeah, we actually killed the quad
Yes, you
years ago.
got.
Yep. I was going crazy, man. He was doing his little dance and his little squeal he does when he kills a bunch of coyotes. It was awesome. I had Richard Gonzalez there filming it, I think.
Yes.
It
Dude,
was awesome.
shout out to Rich. He's a savage. About to go meet up with him here, and actually him and Big Al at the Western Hunt Expo in a couple weeks. But,
Yeah, good people.
dude, amazing people.
Yeah,
So,
they're
so, so that was my introduction to you, and then to Decoy Dog. And I'm like, dude, here this guy is. The most fascinating thing about what you do is you actually get to watch the coyotes for a while. Like
oh
I
yeah,
was like, come on, shoot him. Wait, no, shoot him.
right.
No, what? And you just kind of let them run around and play. They don't run off.
No, I've been doing it long enough for quite a few years now. When I first started, I was like a coyote come in behind the dog and be like, boom. I was like, yeah, did you see that? Well, then as I got older and kind of got more into the dog actual training side of it, you're better letting your dogs work the coyotes a little bit more rather than just, letting them come up and shoot them and move on to the next stand, because your dogs won't learn to engage further out, come back, if you miss, to go out and get them. I mean, it's a cat and mouse thing. And so as I got, I guess you say, kind of longer actually doing it, I milk footage all the time. I drives my son nuts. He's like, "Can't shoot." I'm like, nah, I'm gonna let him decoy. He's like, well, why don't you shoot him? I said, because I want these dogs to learn that I want them to work them as long as I say, and then I will, and then I'll shoot the coyote. Because when I was doing it first, man, I mean, you ought to seen the coyotes we hammered. It was unreal. I mean, it would just be. I mean, I think one weekend, or I think in just weekends hunting, when I first started this, we killed 60 cows just hunting the weekends.
What?
Yeah, but now I also have to remember this was probably 10 years when there wasn't a lot of people. I mean, there wasn't a lot of people actually hunting coyotes in the spring and summer, and the whole thermal game wasn't even started then. Now, so there's a lot of factors. We don't kill near as many. I got my kid's cat coming next to me. But now with the thermal game gone and a lot more people hunting coyotes, we don't kill nearly as many as that. And plus, we're doing a lot more, as far as with our video side of things too, takes longer. We're setting up longer. We're doing more shots, stuff like that. So we don't kill as many, but we're just as effective.
Dude.
And it's just so then, it was just one of them things that I was like, I love it. So then I just started raising my own dogs. I got so many people that were asking me, they were like, hey man, because when I first had my first two, they were both fixed, Desi and Copper. I don't know if you've watched some of our older videos, but Copper was just the machine. I mean, he'd go such a long ways and get coyotes and multiple misses, and he would go back out and get them, and not from me messing, people that were gunning for him. And so anyway, we just, I'm like, I'm going to start raising my own dogs because I'm getting so many people asking me, and I want to get dogs out to people and let them, do this. We've sold. So then we got Maggie, our mom dog that's raised all the pups, and she's an awesome hunter. I mean, I just had her out here 2 weeks ago hunting on a guy's ranch that was having trouble, and she's older now. She's a little slower, but she can still get the job done, and she's awesome for wintertime coyotes because she's not a hard charger like my other dogs were. So, she'll go out to these coyotes and she just kind of strolling down there like grandma to them, and she's a barking, and they'll come up and they'll do their thing, and she's real soft with them. And that's what you need this time of year with coyotes, because they just want to survive this time of year. They don't want to fight, they don't want to mess around. They just want to try to survive in this December, January. As you get into February, March, they're starting to really kind of going where they're going to start raising their young. They're paired up. They're breeding if they haven't bred already. So then you can kind of get, I can get out my other dogs that are maybe a little more hard chargers, But no, it's been fun, and it's just I feel like I feel from a standpoint from the agricultural ranching side of saving the lambs and the calves and even like the deer, your deer aren't really, they're not having fawns yet. But from a standpoint of probably killing coyotes when they need to be killed, that's the best time to be killing them. You can kill a lot of coyotes in November and first part of December, but out where we live, there's going to be another probably. I mean, there's going to be somebody come fill the void within because we have so many coyotes.
What's up, Soul Seekers Nation? Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. I really appreciate it. As a reward, I have some discount codes for you to use if you are in the market for a brand new hunting pack. Go check out initialascent.com and Initial Ascent packs. They are made in America. Their one-piece carbon frame is an absolute game changer. We run their packs. We love them. And you can save 5% at checkout by using the code SOULSEEKERS. That's all one word. Also, for those of you who are archery hunters and you are tired of shooting at dots on a target, check out deadnutsoutdoors.com for their lifelike 2D archery targets. You can save 20% on all of their products by using the code SOULSEEKERS at checkout. Once again, the code is SOULSEEKERS, all one word. Go check out initialascent.com and Dead Nuts Outdoors. Enjoy the podcast. Wow. Okay. So I was having a conversation with Big Al and Rich Gonzalez, actually, because I was like, guys, let's meet up and let's go on a coyote hunt.
Right.
One of the days or one of the nights, we'll do a thermal hunt first weekend of February for the Hunt Expo. And they told me that out there during that time is just not a good time to be hunting them. Yeah. And I was really shocked because I always, like, as much as I studied the game and wanted to know more about coyote hunting, it was like January and February is the prime time. You're saying that that's actually the prime time for where you're at as well.
Well, it's good. Where they hunt a lot, they say they get a lot of, their cows get pressured a lot. And they would be. They got more people living there, that's understandable. I mean, we're out here. I mean, once again, I say it all the time, we're out here in God's country because it's just that we don't have a lot of people. Yeah. And, so there's a lot of cows. Granted, they get educated just like anywhere else, but you can always go find coyotes to hunt. I mean, I can go to one ranch, two ranch, three ranches and be, hey, I'm going to hunt coyotes. Okay, that's fine. Go kill them. We're getting ready to calve. That guy that I was over by Billings hunting, he's getting ready to calve. So he had us come over and just kind of scout the place for probably here in another month to go and start, probably first part of February, into February, start, in between that month, start hammering coyotes because he's going to start calving.
I love it. Do you find yourself ever hunting dead piles on the ranches?
I don't do that. I mean, I don't because one, I got my dogs with me, so they'll be over there rolling in it, and I got to haul them back home or eating on. I don't hunt a lot of dead piles. A lot of thermal guys do that. They'll hunt them. I've never even hunted with a thermal ever.
Oh, well, we got to get you down to Texas here, or I'll bring it up to Montana, dude. I just did it last Friday. Did a hog hunt. Oh.
Unreal, but I'll ask your opinion because I get this. I mean, this is the podcast I've been wanting to do. Is thermal hunting in your mind, I've never done it, don't know much about it. Is it hurting the daytime hunting?
Is it hurting the daytime hunting?
Is it hurting the daytime hunting? As far as educating coyotes at night, do you think it's hurting the daytime calling?
I think, depending on how you want to hunt. If you're wanting to hunt nighttime and daytime, and you only have a certain section of lands or area that you want to hunt,
Right.
you got to pick either or,
Right. Okay.
right? Because there's only going to be so many animals within the area in which you're planning to hunt, and
Right.
if you bump them, spook them, educate them, whatever, then the chance of calling them in 12 hours later might not be.
Right. But I meant just in general, do you think not even if you're hunting like that same not like the next day, but like I'm saying, do you think it's hurting the guy that goes out 2 weeks from now after he's thermal hunted? Do you think that's educate I mean, are they getting educated for daytime calling?
I don't think so. But that's just me.
Right.
That this is just off the cuff answering right there. And I think a lot of it has to do with the senses of the animal that it uses at nighttime versus the daytime,
Right. Oh
right?
yeah, their guard's definitely more up during the day.
Yeah. And so, they hear squeals, all sorts of different things,
Right.
and they're going to check it out. And
Yeah.
at nighttime, especially if it's not a full moon and it's real dark,
Right.
dude, you could call it in and not even shoot it, and they might not even know you're there.
Really? See,
Yeah.
I've never done none of it. I'm just old, I'm a kind of an old school guy. I like sleeping at night. I love the mornings. Anybody that's ever hunted with me, man, I get up, I'm just happy. I am up. I mean, I'm going. And I was like, God, let me get some coffee. I need to get some coffee in me and get kind of woke up. Not me. I'm loving it in the morning. And so I've never done the thermal game. Everybody's wanted to. I've had people ask me. I've had TV shows ask me, "Hey man, can we come out and do a thermal hunt with you at night with your dogs?" And I've just been always so scared to do that because God, if something would happen to one of my dogs, I don't know. Well, I wouldn't be able to come home because my wife would kill me.
Right.
So I'd end up staying with whoever I was hunting with for the rest of my life. Uh, but I just never have done it. It's probably something that maybe I should try and educate myself on. I just never have done it.
Yeah. Well, what I love is it extends your hunt,
Yeah, it does that. Yep.
right? Like when you hunt those winter months and the days are so short,
Yep.
it's like, oh man,
That's true. That's a good point. I guess I get that. Yeah.
yeah,
Because a lot of guys around here now, I know like just a handful of guys I know that they hunt coyotes quite a bit in the wintertime. They don't do none of the stuff in the spring or the summer, but there's quite a few of them went and bought the whole thermal stuff. And now, so with that being said, I got to clarify this though, and I want to clarify it on a podcast. So I want someone. My mind tells me that you still got to hunt coyotes the same way at night as you do during the daytime. As far as you got to have the wind in your face
hmm
when you're hunting, right? I've heard more people tell me, "Oh hell, you don't have to worry about the wind. You just throw that thermal up and go to call, and they don't even check the wind. They just come in." I said I don't believe that because the coyote lives by their nose.
right. Every time that I've done it, we're still playing the wind.
That's what
We're
I
still playing
wanted.
the
Yeah,
wind.
I wanted that to be said because I hear some of these jokers tell me, "Oh, you don't have to worry about them." And I'm like, I've hunted coyotes so much. I said they did. That's how they live is with their nose.
I mean, you might get a stupid coyote like that maybe came in, or a young pup that runs in. Um,
Right.
but no, you play the wind at all times.
R-
Unless would say maybe here's the one caveat to that is if you are in tight quarters and you're
right.
hunting thick timber and you need that animal to circle behind the call,
Right.
so then you would have that wind at your back so that it's going to come behind you. That's the only
That'd
caveat
be
to that.
so. But I mean, I would just think typically they're going to come maybe not as hard downwind at night as they would during daytime,
Yeah.
but they're still going to come in, because even if I would think they're going to come in downwind of whatever's playing just to make sure what it is,
Yep. 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 Well, brother, what? Let's talk about the history of how you even got started in coyote hunting, and then I got a lot of questions that the listeners and our social media followers
Okay.
dropped on to the question board that I popped up there. So,
Awesome.
tell a little history. You started to tell me at the beginning before we recorded. I was like, oh, sorry, Levi, you're gonna have to tell this again because it's a cool story. But
Okay.
how'd you get into it?
So, okay, my great grandparents and grandparents, they have a ranch here east of Winnet, and they have made most of their living. They were sheep farmers, or I mean, they raised sheep. Well, as the lambs would get closer to a market, say middle August, first part of September, that's the perfect time when the coyotes are teaching their young to hunt. And I just seen the disgust in my grandparents all the time. They'd go out, there'd be 6 or 7 dead lambs, or the next day there might be 4 or 5. Time the government trapper got there, he'd come and he would take care of it, but the damage was already done. In fact, there's one story I remember. We had a bunch of replacement ewe lambs at the house, in a field right by the house. And we got up the next morning to go just check them. There was 9 dead ewe lambs from a pair of coyotes that come in and killed them, and that's their replacements for their ewes going into the next year. And my grandparents were just like, they're about to sell these sheep because they couldn't, the cows were so relentless. And my grandpa used to always tell me, he said, the cow numbers weren't a problem when they could use 1080, the poison.
Hmm.
And then when they got rid of that 1080, they wouldn't let him use it. Then he said that's when the coyote numbers just flourish. Now it's a little different because you can call a government trapper and you can bring in an airplane or a helicopter and they'll kill those coyotes that are around that, band of sheep or whatever. But back then it was hard going. It was hard to make a living. They were just barely getting by. And I've always, so I guess watching my grandparents all them years just be so frustrated, I took a real passion to hunting coyotes, and it's just stuck with me. And then now you throw dogs into the mix, and it's more fun to me. I mean, anytime you have a dog, it'd be like, I mean, if you bird hunt pheasants or whatever, having a dog next to you is always makes hunting a lot more funner. Well, I go out and hunt them, and I just love it. Because I'm helping the sportsman, the rancher, the farmer, and I get to watch my dogs interact, and they're probably the most important tool of my hunt, other than maybe the gun I'm shooting, or it's just a fun deal. I love it. I don't ever get sick of it.
That's so wild. That is an amazing story because you don't actually hear of many people ranching, farming, herding, shepherding sheep
Oh
very
yeah.
often.
Well, my great grandparents they had herders. Then my grandpa and grandma, the coyotes got so bad that they paid a guy to go out there. I mean, all summer. He had a little 3-wheeler. That's how far it was back. It was a 3-wheeler
Yep.
in a little camper sitting out in the middle of this. I mean, it's God's country, but the reason I say it's God's country because he might be the only one out there. That's how desolate it is.
Yeah.
And they just have to ride on them sheep the whole time, and make sure the cows weren't getting in and killing lambs or ewes, or it's just. And then I don't know. For me, it's just been a passion to try to just keep our coyotes in check. You're never gonna get rid of the coyote. They're like the cockroach. You can go and kill a bunch of them, but I mean, they're smart. Coyotes are smart. The more, I don't know. I've heard the lesser food there is, the lesser coyotes pups they'll have. I've heard that if as their numbers are getting down, they'll have more. I'd like to really talk to a true biologist to see what the true meaning is there. But just to recap on that, I was hunting for a guy one time, a rancher. He was calving heifers, and these coyotes were coming into his pen, and I'm sure that it was just eating the afterbirth. Because I mean they'll eat anything, coyotes. And so he had these heifers in their cabin, and they were coming in there, and he called me. He said, "Hey," he says, it was like the end of March. He said he asked. He said, "Can you come out to my place and hunt these coyotes?" He said, "I can kind of tell you where I think they're coming from, but they're coming in and they're eating in the afterbirth, and they're getting my heifers all stirred up. Heifers are goofy. A cat walks through them or something, they might blow the whole corral down." I said, "Sure, I'll come out there and I'll see what I can do." So I went out there and I had Copper and Desi, and they're about 3 or 4 years old then. And I'll never forget this hunt. And I didn't film it because I just ran out there real quick, see if I could get these cows killed. I went out there, I called these cows, and here they come. Just right where he thought they were, here come these pair of cows. Copper went out, and he's out there with the male. And then in probably 300 or 400 yards behind this male, here comes this other cow. And I thought, okay, it's got to be the female. So I shoot the male, and of course, old Copper's over there chewing on the cow. That's his reward. Well, here comes this female, and I'm like, God, she's big. Like, she just looked like a tank coming in. So I shoot her, and I was walking away. I thought, "Oh, God, I'll bet she was pregnant." So I walked back a mile and a half down there, and I opened her up, and she had 8 pups in her, size of a soup
Wow.
can. So she was close to having them pups, so then I went back and told the rancher. I said, "I solved your problem." He's like, "Oh yeah." He goes, I said, "I killed 9 coyotes." I said, "with 2 shots." I killed 9 coyotes with 1 shot. I said, "Oh, come on. What are you talking about?" I said, "I just killed the female that had 8 pups in her." He's like, "Oh my God, thank you so much." He said, but it was unreal. And of course, that solved the problem. They were coming in, and probably it was an easy meal every night to go eat some afterbirth. The problem with that though is once they start eating afterbirth, well, then if heifer lays down and starts having a calf, they'll start eating on the back or the head of that calf. And typically what happens is coyotes don't typically kill calves. I know they could maybe kill one or two, maybe in a year they just get one, leg them up. But typically what happens is they get the cow worked up in there, and she actually stomps the calf, trying to protect her calf. They'll get
Ah,
to around and they'll stomp her, and that's usually typically what kills the calf. Well, then the cow leaves, and then they'll just eat the calf, and that's usually typically what ranchers see. Oh, they're eating one of my calves, and so that, I mean, they did play a huge part in killing that calf, but it's usually typically the cow or the heifer that kills it. But yeah, it was a fun story. I mean, I was glad I helped the guy. I actually had another one time that a guy couldn't get. This guy kills lots of cows with the pole, and he couldn't get up in this rough stuff. So I went up just south of his house one time, and I was calling. Here come 3 cows, and I killed the first 2, and this third one was coming. It looked like it looked like an Ethiopian coyote, just really slender and just, I mean, nothing to it, but it had a little poochy belly on it.
I just,
And
I just, I just realized what you said there. I like that.
And I just like, so I shot this cow and I did the same thing. I thought, God, I'm going to go have to. I went and opened that cow up, and she had 11 babies in her, the size of a salt shaker.
Wow.
And so I took it to the rancher and showed him, and he's like, yeah. And I killed that female in June. And typically, they breed anywhere from the end of January. So they should have had. So that just goes to show you, she probably missed the cycle, or maybe something happened and she recycled and was having gonna have these pups in June. So
Wow.
it's amazing what you can get done with these dogs. I tell everybody, next to a plane or a helicopter, this is the most effective way to coyotes.
Wait, so I don't think you've actually said, and for the people who don't follow you or know much about you and everything that you do, what type of dogs are you running?
They're a mountain curs. CUR. The best way I explain it to everybody, in fact, people that buy our pups or come look at our pups, like they see them online, they think they're labs. Oh, them are nice yellow labs. Can I, that's awesome. I said, no, they're a mountain cur. Basically, they're a yellow lab with a bobtail.
Hmm.
Just, I mean, they have the same personality as a lab, love kids, love family. They're just great, great house, dogs, you can keep them in the house or outside, or I mean, we've sold them to people just for pets. They just can't believe how awesome they are.
Wild. Okay, so there's so many questions, and I'm gonna save the list of like questions that the people put on Instagram for us. Towards the end, I'm gonna just stick kind of with my setup right here. One of the things I really am interested in is I always thought a coyote was around every corner, kind of the cockroach terminology, or
Right.
like rats, like you go in the woods, or you go onto the pasture, or you go into like the desert. There's gonna be a coyote there. And then I realize maybe there are, but I'm never seeing them. And I'm calling and I'm calling and I'm calling. And for the longest time, I always thought like people were like, oh, speak the language of the coyotes,
Right.
Randy Anderson, I always lead with a howl and then I'm doing this and all that. And it's like, does a coyote really know transition, or are you just like one call to the next? One call to the next, like bam, 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 until you find the one that they respond to.
I'm not that way. I'm not that way. I'm not a what's the term where I don't offend people that do it that way. I'm not that way. I do like how we call, like I'm strategically setting up a situation to bring that coyote to me.
Mm,
I guess what I mean by that, I'm a lone howl guy. I lone howl at the start of every set I do, whether it's in January 1st, August 1st, April 1st, whatever time I'm hunting coyotes, I lone howl every time. Because the lone howl is like me and you saying hello to each other.
mm,
So when I say I get up there and the first thing I do is I rip off a lone howl off the Fox Pro and 3 or 4 times and I'll just sit there. And most of the time, if there's coyotes in the area, they're either gonna stand up or they're gonna howl back at you. And then so basically, and it's a non-aggressive howl. It's a like it's a thing saying, you know what, buddy, are there anybody out there? I haven't been around here for a while, or that type of situation. And then
right.
so then do that, and then I usually try to, everybody's got their theories. Well, they're gonna, everyone says, uh, you know, well, now it's getting close to rut, so we're gonna do a lot more howls, and that's true. You should use a lot more cow vocalizations if you are in the mating and pairing season. I do get that, but then they still got to eat. So and typically this time of year, especially in Montana, our coyotes are paired up right now,
Hmm.
so that they're gonna be staking claim to some sort of ground to raise their pups. Well, they're not going to have every Tom Dick. I mean, they don't want every other coyote in the country eating where they're going to be raising their youngs. So you still can go to what I call the lunch box. I'm going in the lunch box and I'm throwing out missing cottontail or whatever my mind wants to use that day. I kind of do it to where or like if I'm in a lot of rocks and that, I'll use a rabbit. But if I get out in this big sagebrush country, I'll use an antelope fawn distress or
Mm,
maybe jackrabbit because that's kind of what lives out in that neck of the woods.
yeah.
And I'll play that, and then of course, I always say if that doesn't work, then we go right into pup distress, and that's basically saying I'm in. I said hello. I'm in your fridge eating your food, and I'm beating the shit out of your kid. I'll bet somebody's showing up to see what goes on. And that's the situation that I'm trying to portray to the other coyotes out there.
Interesting. Do you ever just go to the random sound box of Fox Pro and start throwing out some like crazy?
I don't. I don't do it that way. And maybe like I said, maybe I'm just old school and maybe I'm missing out on it.
Yeah.
I just listened to a good podcast with John Collins and with Tori Cook from MFK Calls, and he really gets into the dynamics of different cow, how these cows are going to vocalize during the breeding and this and that, and I just don't. I'm not gonna sit. I'll be honest. I'm not sitting on a stand for an hour to call a coyote. You know what I'm saying? Like, I guess what I mean is I know how I can kill coyotes, and I'm gonna get it done in hopefully 20 minutes because if in our country we can see so far.
Right.
I can see for miles. So if nothing has popped up in 20 minutes that I can see with my SIG glass,
Moving on.
moving on to the next one. I'm not there to make a. I'm not. It's and I maybe we do. I don't think we're. I don't think we are educating coyotes either because in our country you stand you'll see them. They're not going to lay down if you howl or do rabbit or pup distress or female invite or whatever. They're not just going to lay down and hide from you. They're the most socialist animal going. They're just like dogs at your house.
Mm.
There's a dog barking outside your house and you got a dog. I'll bet your dog perks up, wants to go outside and look and see what it is. Let's say, I mean, you know, now I don't hunt the big deep woods. It's probably a whole different deal doing it down there, but in our country, this is kind of how we roll.
Mm-hmm.
I never go into the 500 sounds of Fox Pro, but they're all good sounds. They all now. With that being said, I will a lot of times throw in some like bird distress because nothing more pisses off a coyote knowing that a magpie is eating something. They'll be like, little bastards over there eating something. I'm gonna go over and eat it. Because it's just like with anything, there's a pecking order in this good world, and birds are way below a coyote. So a
Right.
coyote come in and eat, and if he hears a magpie over there fighting like they're eating on something, he's gonna be like, "Yeah, I'm going over there to eat that." So
Interesting.
that's how it works for us. I've killed more. I've killed more coyotes in a stand using that magpie fight. Just in the simple fact, they're like, piss on. I'm going in there. Them guys are eating a rabbit in my area. And they'll come in. We killed 4 one time with our Sig Sauer rip. I was filming him and he just kept dumping them. Boom. He's like, "What are you?" And I said, "Magpies, man. I'm telling you, it infuriates." Now, I want everybody to know when I'm telling you this is the stuff that works in our country. I'm not gonna say it's gonna work in South Carolina or Kentucky or wherever, but here, because we got lots of magpies and crows, and nothing irritates them coyotes more than a magpie eating.
Interesting.
Okay, man, but anyway, that's I'm not a I guess I get to rambling off on something else, but I'm not a in my call and just start a whole bunch of shit and then hope for the best. I got to have a plan to how I'm calling something, and then I hope it works because I know I can see if it don't work, then I'll move on. And that's probably the number one thing I've said a bunch is I think they worry too much about the sounds that they have rather than hunting where coyotes live. Like I scout, I know where coyotes are going.
Okay, so this was going to be one of my questions that I had for you is when I was saying I'd go out into the prairie lands or whatever. I just assume a coyote's there.
Right.
It's not always the case. How much
No.
pre-scouting are you doing for coyotes? And then, really, if you compare that to like big game hunting, how much are you putting in even more energy into the scouting for the coyotes versus that? Or go ahead, take it away.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't, I guess how I do it a lot, my scouting a lot of times is when I'm big game hunting in the fall. So typically I archery hunt a lot during rifle season in Montana. And I'm hunting mostly private ground, so I do have that advantage. I'm not hunting a lot of I don't hunt a lot of public ground during big game season. I'm just fortunate my family has a ranch. But with that being said, a lot of times when I'm hunting in the fall, I'm seeing coyotes where they are. But I ain't shooting them yet. I'm just because I'm deer hunting and most of the time I'm archery hunting that time of year. We have really good whitetail, so I'm always up on these big bluffs looking at, just trying to make my next move where I'm going to archery hunt. And I hear the coyotes where they are. Well, I just make a mental note all the time in my head. Okay, there's a family group there. There's a family group there. There's a family group here. I'm seeing a pair of coyotes all the time here. So then I'll just keep that note in my head. And then when it gets December and January, I go in them areas where they haven't left. They're not leaving. They're still there because nobody's hunting them yet. So then I'll go in them areas and then I know they're there. It's just a matter of getting the wind in your face and the sun at your back if you can, depending on the wind, and then just getting in there and calling them.
Hmm.
So that you do it. And then of course in the spring and summer, then I'm out locating them then. I'm just because they're loud that time of year, you know.
Are you locating them the day of your hunt, or are you a week before, at nighttime before?
I actually go out and I'll locate them, before it gets light out. And then a lot of times these ranchers are just because they're on they live there. So they'll be like, "Hey, Levi, just south of our place, we heard two different groups." So I just go hunt where they say. I mean, I rely on ranchers a lot.
Yeah.
Landowners they're hearing them, they're out there all the time. I know how to kill coyotes, just put me where they're at.
Yep. I,
So
I That's kind of reminds me of my very first buck I ever shot. Was on private land, dairy farm, and
no,
there was a bunch of other hunters actually hunting it as well. And we talked to the actual farmer, and he was like, "Well, if I was you, I would go sit on this lower patch of ground, which
right?
wasn't very big. You get bored of staring at the same pasture and wall of trees. It
Yeah,
was very small, maybe a couple acres at that." And he was like, "Just sit there. That's where I'd be." And sure enough, half hour into it, out came a deer right out of the woods, and that was my first buck. And I was like, no one knows the land better than the person that's always
that
there.
so that's and typically we're going out there because they've got a hold of us. Well, I mean, they live there. I just take their word for it. I mean, not many of them are gonna lie to you and say, "Oh yeah, I haven't." They're over there and they haven't heard them. I mean, these are good people. They're probably the salt of the earth. These ranchers and farmers. And but no, that's just I mean, I guess back to your. I'm not a big. Like I say, I just don't. I got a set of calls I like to use and it works.
Mm,
I know with Fox Pro they've added all the MFK calls and that's been a huge addition to have that. It's just more sounds and it works good. I mean, we're just really diving into them, figuring out what we want to use and I think, like I said, mostly I just think you gotta hunt where coyotes are,
yes.
and then you'll kill them. I mean, it's just plain and simple. It's just they're a very social communication animal. And if they're not educated now, I've been on some witch hunts where they have me come in and say, "Hey, I got coyotes," and I'll be like, "Have you had anybody else out here hunting?" "Oh yeah, Johnny from the block was out here and he wanted to go over the hill and but he couldn't get the coyote to come in because it come in at 500-600 and started barking." Yeah, because the wind was probably at his back. And so that's what happens. I mean, we've been some of them, and we even with dogs, and the dogs will be out there, and they'll be out there 500-600 yards with the dogs on them. They won't come in because they're educated. And I tell them all, like, let us come out there first. I'm not saying we're the best coyote hunters in the world, but
Yeah.
we're good at what. And if you would just let us there, because I get it, everybody wants to hunt, and everybody wants to hunt, coyotes, and I just tell them if you're gonna go out and do it, please, please, please have the wind in your face. I mean, it's just but anyway, yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's just it's a fun passion, and just when you think that you've got it figured out, they humble you pretty.
Ain't that the truth? Ain't
Yep.
that the truth? Um, all right, so we're gonna get into the dog stuff here very shortly. One of the things I just want to wrap up on this whole part is talking about you hunt a lot of private land. You have relationships. You kind of now have you have a reputation that goes before you as well. Did you ever have to, or did you ever gain access to private land from meeting landowners and knocking on doors, or did you ever go through that process?
Oh yeah, I mean, I've knocked on doors. Like where I work now, it's a town that's just it's probably 20 minutes from me. Well, I see lots of good coyote hunting. I don't know, so I just knock on the door and say, "Hey, I'll say, I'm wondering if I could come hunt some coyotes on you. I have dogs that we decoy them, and then, most of them know who we are or have heard of what we're doing, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I've heard about you, watched you on one of your social sites or whatever." And yeah, I mean, I go in there, but back to your private land thing, uh, we hunted a lot of public when we first started. I mean, we hunted a lot of public land, and there's a lot of good public land hunting too. I mean, I have a saying: we hunt both, and we respect both, and that's the way you got to do it, public or private. You can get on a lot of private ground still hunting coyotes.
Do you have any tips for that?
I'd go up and knock on the door, and I would just say, "Hey, I want to hunt coyotes." And if they say, "Nope, sorry, we're not letting anybody," say, "Okay, thank you," and be as professional and as etiquette and respectful as you can, and go on to the next one. You're gonna get on. People are gonna let you hunt them. It's just this whole big game. All your big game stuff really went to lease ground, and it's everywhere. I mean, I hate to see it, but that's how it is. But we still get access on a lot of cow hunting,
Mm,
you know.
yeah.
And but the thing of it too is when we're going and hunting and asking them to hunt, it's spring and summer. There ain't many people knocking their doors down in May and June to go ask to hunt coyotes. Some of them will look at you like, "Well, what are you doing that for?" I said, "Well, we have the dogs and we explain what we're doing." "Oh yeah, sure, go ahead," because that time of year, everybody's sitting on a boat somewhere. There nobody's doing much, and so. And then I'm born and raised here. Like I said, I'm fourth generation, and I know a lot of people, and my family knows a lot of people, and so we get access to, and not just this county, but different counties. But yeah, I would say if I say all the time, because I get asked a lot, I just tell people just go and ask people, be respectful and be polite. The nicest people are farmers and ranchers.
Mm.
Sit down and BS with them and say, "How's it going today?" And you'll be surprised how many of them might know your uncle or your mom's parents, or it's a small world. Just sit down and ask them a little bit. You'll probably get on to go hunt.
Don't fast food them. Don't come there with little time. Like, give yourself a
Yeah,
little time to actually
yeah,
have a conversation.
yep, exactly. Just be and you are going to get told no, because I mean, I get told no sometimes. No, no, we're not letting anybody hunt. Okay, thanks. And
Yeah.
I'll go to neighbor. Can I hunt? Well, I'm going to call them coyotes that they aren't letting me hunt. I'm going to call them across the fence and kill them. I'm just, that's what I tell people. Just because you strike out on one ranch, go to the next one. So it's fun. I mean, and that's part too. If getting access to ranch makes it more kind of rewarding your hunt,
Yeah.
you know, that you had to knock a few doors down to get on some land. And I'll tell you, when I tell people this, I've got on to big game hunt, but I got in the door by hunting coyotes.
Mm.
I built that relationship with them hunting coyotes, and I never ask them right off the bat, "Hey, can I go deer hunt next?" I just like, I'll come back, hunt coyotes for a year or two, and then maybe I'll see a nice antelope on year 3. "Hey, you got mind if I archery antelope hunt?" Or, "No, go ahead, because I know you're a good guy. You've left the gates. Have you found them? You're not crashing the place up. If it was wet, you didn't go in there. You didn't want to go in there." I mean, these ranchers see that, and then you build a relationship, and and not always, but it can lead into some big game hunting opportunities for you.
I love it. I love it. Okay, so explain the whole idea and concept of decoy dogging and how it works for people who are unfamiliar with you. Are you there coyote hunting like any other coyote hunter, and then when you see a coyote, then you send a dog out? Or how does it work?
I'm doing the same thing. I would be doing the same thing hunting coyotes, my call a sequence and everything if I didn't have a dog. What the dogs do, and so my your so for your first question, I'm calling the same way if I didn't have a dog. Your second question, as far as my dogs come in with me in the back of a pickup in a pet porter. When I get out, I just open the doors, they jump out, and they're just running free as they can run free. And of course, we sneak into where we want to be, get set up, set the Fox Pro up, and just go to calling. Well, my dogs they've been doing it for so long
Mm-hmm.
that, I mean, every dog has a different personality. So, like our copper dog, he was out there 300 yards sniffing and peeing and pooping, and he knew he was just out there. But then we've had like Desi, she would stay more close to us. Maggie kind of gets out there. Tank and Champ, the two that we hunt with a lot now, they're out wandering around, or sometimes they'll just sit by. It just depends how many stands we're in. When they're fresh, they're running around a lot. But as you hunt them during the day, they just they know the drill. So basically, like I said, I'll lone howl, and my dogs are just looking. They're just looking to see if they can see something. If they hear something, they'll go to the sound. If they smell something, they'll go to where they're smelling it. And then once they see that, once they get a visual on that coyote, they're running out to him. And that's where the whole decoy thing, it's called dogging. They're back and forth. And each coyote's got its own personality too. Some are aggressive. So they're gonna, I mean, I've had them where two dogs run right at a coyote and that coyote just stand there. Bring it. He don't care. He's standing his ground. And you'll have some subordinate coyotes, or maybe not as strong personality to stand their ground. They'll take off running. Well, I'll just whistle at my dogs, and the dogs will turn and come back. Well, that coyote's run away. He sees them dogs running. He'll instantly turn around and come back and follow. Because he thinks he's got the run on him.
Yeah.
And so then so each coyote's different. I mean, each coyote's different personality, and each dog's a different personality. I mean, like I just was saying, like my Maggie dog, I love hunting over her because she's like the best of both worlds. I can hunt her on aggressive coyotes, and I can hunt her on them not so aggressive because she just kind of in one speed all the time.
Yeah.
Now, when I had Copper, if he seen you, he was running for you. And he was long and lanky, and he loved to run. He loved to decoy coyotes. And I mean, like I said, I had a guy one time miss coyote 7 times, and he decoyed him back in for an eighth time, and the guy finally killed him.
Wow.
But now Tank and Champ, they're good. They're not quite that. They're not as good as Copper was, but they're good. They know the game. I mean, as they get old, as your dogs get older, like my dogs are 5 now, they know the game. I mean, they know when I hit pup screams that there's something's going on. There's got to be a cow they can't find, and they're going bonkers. They're looking and running, and they know the sounds of the Fox Pro. And so, I'll hit the lone howl, and they're sitting there looking, and they're kind of getting nervous, and they're looking, and then I'll hit whether it's lightning jack, or that's kind of borders them. They're like, oh, here's some food, and then you hit that pup scream, and that gets them excited because they've known over the years that pup scream is usually typically brings in a coyote. You
Mm-hmm.
know, they're excited, they're looking, and it's just, I say my dogs are just like hunters. The more stands in the field, the better hunters they are, and I mean, we got better being the more as we got out and experienced it, we become better hunters. That's how these dogs are. They just get better every stand you take them out on, and it takes a while. I mean,
Yeah.
I've got a lot of hours and time and energy into making these dogs what they are, but it's fun. It's real rewarding to watch them work and, and really improve as dogs. I mean, I love watching them go out to a coyote. I've killed, I don't keep track how many coyotes I kill. I had a guy ask me one time, how many coyotes have you killed? I said, I don't know. I don't care. I said, I'd like to know the number of animals we've saved by the number of coyotes we've killed.
Yeah.
I don't, that whole number of coyotes I killed thing doesn't do, I don't care. I want to know how many animals we've saved by the number of coyotes we've killed, whether it be birds or deer or sheep or cattle or whatever, that's our kind of our fame. What we want to be known for is how many animals we've saved, and so as your dogs get older, I mean, I think, this is my opinion, but I don't think your dog becomes just solid until they're about 4.
Mm.
Believe that, because they're 2 and 3, they're still like a kid. I mean, they're going to make mistakes, and that's what I tell people. A lot of people call us and ask us about dogs, how to train them, how to do this. I said, you got to be patient. You got to be super patient. I coached basketball for 10 years, and when I first started, I just thought, well, come on, you guys should know this. But my wife, being a first and second grade teacher, she says, you're more of a teacher than you are a coach. She says, you got to teach these kids, and it's all about repetitious. And that's exactly is training dogs. You got to be patient. You got to not lose your cool. And it's all about repetitious, repetitious,
Yeah.
repetition. You just get out in the field, and they're not gonna do it. I mean, I've had them where one day I think, oh my gosh, look at them go, they're doing awesome. Then the next day, he'd be sitting next to me.
Mm-hmm.
What the heck happened to the dog yesterday? But that's just being a young dog. That's just how kids are.
Yeah.
So I just tell everybody, just be patient. I actually quit using shock collars on my dogs. I will put them on if I have to trash break them, like off chasing cattle I let them when they're young. I let my dogs chase deer and antelope, rabbits, because I don't want them to lose the chase factor.
Mm-hmm.
But if I get them to where they're out there chasing an antelope and I'm set up doing a stand for a coyote and they're out chasing something, then I'll trash break them off that. But a lot of times mine they'll see a deer antelope and they'll run out there and chase and then they'll come right back.
Did you always hunt with 2 dogs, or can someone get started with Decoy Doggin with just 1?
You could get started with 1. I always did 2 because Don Laubach told me, I called him and he said, Levi, I'm going to tell you something. He says, you can get by with 1. And he says, I've had a lot of guys do 1 dog, but I've also had a lot of guys get their dog seriously hurt or not, if not killed. And he said, what happens a lot of times, and he's true, if you're hunting with 1 coyote, if you're hunting with 1 dog and it's not very seasoned and it gets over a hill on you, say in a cut over a hill, and there's 2 coyotes, they're going to stretch him out. And they don't hunt or excuse me, they don't fight like 2 domestic dogs. They're going to have the first one's going to come in and get underneath the hamstring and bite him, and then the next one's going to come in when he's whipping around to bite the one that just hamstring. The other one's coming in for the throat or something like that. Like they don't just jump on like a coyotes and just start fighting like a 2 domestic dogs. I've never had my dogs get in a fight like that, but I've had them come in from behind, and like Copper, he'd get out there sometimes a little too far and he'd be dogging, and when he'd turn around to go, that first one would come in and bite him right in the inside of his leg.
Mm.
How they ham him up, and then so yes, I would say you could get away with using 1 dog if it was seasoned. Like I take Maggie now, she's 9. I'm not worried about her. And I guess too, even if your dog wasn't seasoned, the one thing I would say, if you're gonna hunt with 1, just make sure you never get over. Make sure they're always in your sight.
Right.
Don't let them get over a ridge or out around a blind corner on you or something. I mean, you can, because ultimately you're got the gun in your hand. So, I mean, or yell or something. I've never had my dogs get in a situation where I felt like that they were in danger.
Right.
I
Yeah.
always thought I had the upper hand on it because I always kept them in to where I can see them all the time.
Yeah, you got to imagine you're hunting a pack of velociraptors, right? And they're
Yeah, right. I just now I've always hunted too. You know, I don't think you would have to, but I mean, hell, that I got a buddy down in Wyoming. He hunts with them. He'll have a whole pack out there,
mm,
and he don't. I mean, he doesn't. I don't think that scares him, but I know a lot of people. I always just was. I was always worried if two was better than one. But like I said, Maggie, I hunt her by herself all the time.
mm. Well, real quick, I just want to tell you that I, being a former coach and a school teacher, you can always tell your wife that coaching is the purest form of teaching. So,
Right. Yep.
you can,
Yep. I will. Yeah, and she coached too. She coached. We coached for years. All of our kids were athletes. They all did every sport. But I always, I always, I always give that example because it's so true with dogs. They're just like every year is a little better,
yeah,
and they get more experience. And they lose a lot of that puppiness,
yeah,
but
I love it.
it's fun.
All right, so some of the questions that our listeners sent in, I actually kind of mixed in here with what I've asked you. So, like, what's your first call on stand? You always start with a lone howl. So
Always start somehow.
um, you definitely pre-scout for coyotes. So you're making sure you know where they are and you're going to
Yep.
them. Uh, weather for coyotes. What I mean, are you not hunting because of the weather, or are you not hunting because of the moon phase, or are you being like, I got time to hunt, so I'm going to hunt?
The only thing I will not hunt for coyotes is wind. And what I mean by wind is I'm not going out if it's 25, 30 miles an hour wind. I ain't hunting.
Yeah,
That coyotes I mean, yeah, you might get in some river bottoms or some creek bottoms or hunting, but typically where we're hunting, them coyotes are brushed up or in a hole or they're not out. I don't do that. As far as full moons, this is my opinion. Uh, you know, stay home early, or excuse me, sleep in, hunt from 8 to 10 in the morning, and then get back out again at 3 to 5 or whatever. And then I've never hunted anything at night over full moons. Like, a lot of people like, well, I'm gonna go call on a full moon in the snow. I've never done that, but as far as anything else, I'm gonna hunt them.
okay,
I they're The wind's the main thing. I hate hunting when it's windy.
yeah, right. And sound is not carrying very far, all that.
No,
Did you name Copper your dog because of the movie Fox and the Hound?
my son named that dog, and I think it was from the Fox and the Hound. I'm sure it was. So so I got Desi from my good buddy Destry Harris. That was our first female. Well, then he loved her. So, but anyway, he wanted to get one, and Destry had another set of pups, and so my son went and got Copper, and I'm pretty sure he named it after the Copper Fox and Hound. But my son mowed. He was a little tiger. I don't know how old he was. He wasn't too old, but he was big enough that he could push a lawnmower. And so what Adestri told me says that if you mow my lawn, I think it was 10 times, he said, then you can have Copper. So he mowed 10 times. And of course, I'm the one that got him. I'm the one that trained him, but it was his pup. And so, yeah, it
That's
was
cool.
that's from.
I love it. Okay, so these next two questions kind of go, they're symbiotic a little bit. So, and I'll give them both to you at the same time. First one is favorite thing to do with the hide. And then the other part of it is, do you do anything special to prepare the pelt, and what techniques are you using?
As far as the tech for the hides, I don't skin any of our own coyotes. So what happens is we have a guy in the town I live in. He's a fur buyer. We take all of our coyotes to him on the carcass. And typically, just depending where the price of the fur is, if the price of the fur is pretty high, we'll have him skin the. I'll just give him the whole carcass. He'll charge me X amount of dollars to skin it, and then he'll just put it up. And what they do is they'll run like a blue string or something through that coyote's nose, and that'll be our coyote. So every coyote we have will have a blue string through them.
Okay.
If they're not worth, say they're not worth a heck of a lot, I'll just sell them on the carcass and not even mess with them.
Mm-hmm.
Sell them to him and walk away. We don't put nothing up here at my house. We just sell everything to this fur buyer, and he handles it all.
Have you ever?
I know I never have. I
Well,
never. And here's why. There's an old timer where I lived in. He skinned them all, and one time I'd go over there and I'd help him. Great guy. I don't know how many cows he's trapped in his day, but the stink that he had, it would literally get into his clothes, his coat, his because he'd sit in there all day skinning coyotes.
yeah.
And just it. I mean, after a while, I'm sure he just got used to it. But I'd walk in there and I'd be like, "Geez, Louise!" I mean, I can't even imagine sitting in there all day smelling that. But I mean, bless their heart. If you, there's got to be an occupation for everybody. Everybody finds what they love to do, and he loves skinning cows. That ain't my cup of tea.
Yeah.
I'll just sell you it, or I'll pay you to skin it. I don't want to mess with it.
Yeah, coyotes or turkeys, like what smells the worst? You know what I mean?
Right. I've had a bad of both.
Oh, it's so
A
gross.
porcupine, probably the worst smelling thing I ever had. One time, I shot a porcupine. God, that was about as bad as an old gut shot coyote.
Oh, baby.
Horrible.
Yeah, it gets bad at times. I've shot a couple of porcupines, although I don't remember them smelling as bad as a coyote. Man, they reek. I love them. Although I'll tell you this, I have a fascination with euros, and so
Right.
every coyote I kill, I even if the pelt's not good, I like to cut the head off and skull
Oh,
it
really?
out.
Oh, that's
Huge fan of desk mounts. I'm gonna reach over here and grab one. Even especially like you can always DIY your own Euro mount, but to
right.
actually get a one beetled, you see
Oh,
the
yeah. That thing looks awesome.
yeah, super special. But I love that. And then there's this guy who I'm sure there's a few other people, but I met him at the Western Hunt Expo in 2020. He lives out of Western Montana, in between Missoula in Butte somewhere. I forget. Not Deer. It might be Deer Lodge, but
Yeah, probably.
um, he will bronze your
Oh, really?
skulls, and I was like, oh my gosh, incredible! $80 if you send it in to him already done. I think it's like 120 or something like that if he has to clean it up.
Oh,
But I was like, dude, that is like the most epic desk mount,
that is
like
that's
paperweight.
awesome.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? We don't even have a. I got a mountain lion here in my trophy room, but we don't have any coyote skulls. But a cool story I do have about coyotes about a coyote skull. Have you ever? I'm sure you've heard of Jana Waller, Skullbound TV.
Oh, absolutely. She's a
Okay.
legend.
Oh, she's one of my best. We're great buddies. Well, she wanted to come out and hunt coyotes, so she come out and did it. And she says, Levi, can we bring a medal of honor, a recipient out and hunt with you over? I said, yeah, bring him out. So they brought him out, and Clint Romachet, and we were hunting coyotes. And we're sitting there, and anyway, here come this coyote in, and they double tapped at the same time and shot this coyote. Well, it was a big coyote. Well, she cut the head off, like you said. They boiled it, and then she does that whole bead painting,
Yep.
and so she did that with this coyote, and then they auctioned it off at maybe at this Western hunt thing you're going to in Utah or
Yep.
Salt Lake, and they did it there. And so I always thought, that'd been fun to do that. Maybe keep some of these skulls and do that. But yeah, we don't. I have never kept a coyote skull. I guess I take it for granted, that we just shoot them, and usually if they're good, we're selling them to the trapper. If not, we're taking them to the rancher and saying, "Hey, here's what we killed, and where do you want us to dispose them?" And
Right.
I'll just there type thing, I'm moving on to the next. But
Ye-
yeah, I should keep some of them.
I maybe it's because I haven't been hunting that long, so I don't have that many mounts or heads or skulls or
Right.
whatever that I was like, well, a coyote, I guess that one's going in my office. Like,
Yeah, no, that's cool. Yeah, that's a pretty good sized coyote there.
yeah, I have a couple that very, very impressed. Love the teeth. You know, you get the ones you look at the age of it, and it's like, oh, the teeth are all ground down. Look how old this is. But I really love seeing those nice sharp cutters and
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
oh baby. Um,
Yeah.
Man, Levi, you are an absolute stud. This has been just so much fun. One of the biggest questions I want to ask you is because this is a Soul Seekers podcast, so we're always talking about, our mission is mentorship is conservation. If you want hunting to last for generations to come, you got to invest into the lives of other people, and by
Right.
doing that, um, it's that you continually put good out into the world. The thing is that when we realize something that is super impactful for us, the number one thing that humanity will typically do in other aspects is give it away. Oh, I went
Right.
to this restaurant. It was incredible. You got to try it. Oh, I read this book. I watched this movie. I experienced all this. Oh, you haven't been there yet? You guys got to go. With hunting, traditionally, it's been a very closed, kept secret, right? Like
Right.
it's awesome. And yet we don't want to do that. So I'm here with my mission of like revolutionizing the hunting world with this give it away.
Right.
And I think the very first part of what I'm leading into is we need to, as hunters, be able to identify what hunting does for us, what
Right.
it does
Yep.
for our soul. Because when we realize how powerful it is and how transformative it is, then we can put words to it and then we get to share that. What has hunting done for you over the years?
I can't even put into words what it's done for me. I think, I ask everybody I meet, probably the second or third question, "Hey, do you hunt?"
Right.
And not that I am trying to a category. I'm not trying to categorize them that they're bad if they do or don't. But I want to know if they don't. I want to try to tell them you need to try it. It's the best thing for your mind, your soul. Uh, it's therapy for me. I don't know I don't know where I'd be if I didn't have hunting. And I don't come from a hunting family. Like as far as my dad didn't hunt. My dad he lived on deer meat. Because that's how they survive. My brother hunted when he was a kid. He don't hunt. I mean, I got a lot of cousins that don't hunt, but for me, it's just a big part of my life, and I've passed it on to my kids. And my wife hunts, and I like being outdoors. It's like you say, it's great for your soul, and I think it's a learning experience that you should pass on to everybody you meet. That's why I was just saying I ask everybody all the time, "You hunt?" No, I said, "Oh, you should try it, man. You should go this and that. I don't want to hurt, and you get a lot of, oh, I don't want to hurt an animal. Well, I'm not hurting them. I'm hunting them to eat. I mean, we eat elk, we eat antelope, we eat deer, we eat turkeys. We don't eat cows, of course, but that's more from a conservation standpoint. We're trying to, we're helping farmers and ranchers and the sportsmen and outfitters or whatever. But uh, I don't know where I'd be if I didn't have hunt. And as hunters, and I'm glad you are taking a stance to do this, we need to get more hunters involved. And I just was having this conversation with a guy the other day, and I was saying, the problem is as you well know of, especially living in Texas, hunting is kind of becoming a rich man sport, or it's becoming it's a financial deal. But like I tell everybody, okay, I agree with that 100%. But to this day, especially out here in Montana, you can find places to hunt. There's lots of public ground. So you don't have to go hunt a private land. Just getting out in the outdoors and experiencing hunting and is good. That's going to open a lot of mental avenues that you haven't been down, and it's going to make you a better person mentally.
Hmm.
You don't have to go out and you don't have to kill something every time you go out and hunt. I mean, I've had some of the best times not, you know, not having any success. I've watched something that I've never got to see, or I've heard some, or just enjoying a sun coming up or a sun going down, and or listen to an elk bugle or listen to a turkey gobble, or it's refreshing. It gets, these phones, I say all the time, are the ruination of our younger generation, because it's sit in a chair and watch TikTok. And I say this all the time. As much as we use social media for for our sponsors and for our hunts and everything, sometimes I think it's almost a curse to us, though.
Yeah.
Because instead of getting out and enjoying it, we're on our phones. We're looking at Instagram. We're looking at TikTok and Snapchat, and Facebook. And I'm guilty too. I get on there and see. But as I've gotten older, I don't hardly get on them. My son does all of our social media stuff, and so he'll call me and say, or he'll text me, "Hey, Dad, you need to go on here and answer because someone's wanting to know a dog question or a coyote or this or that." I'm trying to deplug a little bit from the whole social side and get out more and just take your kids out. Just go walk with your kids, or take them fishing, or take them hunting. And it's this next generation that needs to do it. But like I say, sometimes it's tough, and I hear it all the time. Oh, you can't, I can't get on this place, or I can't get on that place. But if you try hard enough, if you want it bad enough, there's a lot of good people in this good old world yet that'll let you on.
You betcha. If
So
it all comes down to how bad do you want it?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yep.
How bad do you want it? Moving here to Texas, number one, I don't have the money to be able to put into a lease. I
Right.
don't really even understand the concept. I'm learning the whole idea, like
Right.
what lease would I even want to buy or purchase, or all-
Yeah.
and at the same time, it's like, you know, deer tags are plentiful down here in Texas. You shoot quite a few deer during the year, um,
Right.
and people would be more than glad to allow you to cull off some does. So if you're
Yep.
not super picky about what animals you actually are shooting, man, use social media to your benefit and be like, join
Right.
a local county hunting group and, hey, is anyone I could really use some meat for my family. Would anyone be willing to let me shoot a doe on their property? Or anyone have a coyote
Exactly.
problem? Or, and just start. You can't be afraid. You have to lead with courage. It's just like asking out a girl, right?
I agree with that. And it's just like in life too. I mean, in order sometimes to succeed, you're going to go through some failures. And that's just part of it. I mean, don't that's the worst part about. And I think probably maybe I was this way when I was younger. As you get older, you just think of things, but just have the thing to go up and say, "Hey, I'm going to go ask this person." And if I do fail, that's okay. If they say no, it's okay to have a little of that sometimes,
Yeah,
because then when you do get it, you will appreciate it more. Now, I can say all the time, I'm fortunate that my family has land.
yeah,
I'm not gonna, I'm just fortunate, and I run the hunting on our family place. But you know how many people that have called me, said, "Hey, can we come down?" Like you were just saying, "Hey, can we come down and hunt?" And I'm like, "Yeah, if you guys want to come down and shoot some does, should be more. Yeah, you guys come down, hunt." I don't want to shoot. I want to shoot a buck.
right.
Well, you know what? I'm sorry, but the guys that are leasing this, that's what they're wanting to do. The funny thing with leasing ground, and like I say, people are going to take this the wrong way, and it's fine. I mean, people can take it how they want, but the true I mean, the realization of this world, hunting's not going back to what it was in the 70s and the okay. So the people got to get past that. But I did have a good friend of mine one time tell me, and he's true, and he put it in pretty good. He said, "You know how many friends of yours that ain't scared to go pay to go golf?"
Right.
I said, "You're exactly right. They'll go pay to go be part of a golf membership, or to go golf, or to go to a concert, or to go do this. But my passion's hunting. So I'm going to take all my resource and I'm going to maybe go lease some ground somewhere so I can have a ground that I'm just me and a couple buddies are hunting, not on some public ground where the whole public's hunting, and that changes the whole scenario of how you hunt.
Right.
So it's just, and some people can't afford to do that, but there's still, like I say, well, them people, there's a lot of public ground and there's a lot of mountains, and go explore it, because there's a lot of good hunting out there still. You just got to get off the couch and go
You
get
know,
it done.
I've never heard anyone say it like that before, but I will tell you this, and I love that concept because, um, like personal development. People are like, oh, I don't have enough money to spend on personal development, whether it's like
Right.
counselors, therapists, leadership training, whatever. It's like, well, what do you value? Because we'll just willy-nilly put money into all sorts of stuff, but if we're our greatest asset, our own self,
Right.
then
Yeah.
put it into yourself. And if that's what you want, then go do it. It's fascinating. I love that perspective. Love that
Yeah.
perspective. Levi, did I miss anything that you feel like you want to make sure you touch on before we wrap this bad boy up?
No, man, just thanks for having me on. And if people aren't aware what we do, just check out Carbon TV at Doggin with Levi, and Waypoint TV at Doggin with Levi. And our YouTube is Doggin with Levi Johnson. You can go see, we got lots of videos on our dogs hunting coyotes. I mean, like I say, it's a passion of ours. We just love helping the farmers and the ranchers and the sportsmen by saving deer fawns and antelope fawns. And I guess the one thing I'm going to leave with this, I come from a ranching family. I live in a ranching community. Ag is We're rural America out here, town of 200. uh it's small. I call it God's country because there ain't very many people here, but their livelihood is their lambs, their calves. That's their check at every end of their year, is selling their calves or selling their lambs, and so, what we do is we're not going to get rid of these coyotes. We're not going to get rid of all of them, but we're going to keep them in check so these people can sell, the 90% of their lamb crop, or the 95% of their calf crop, or whatever. And you know what? That's our way of life out here.
Yeah.
I mean, don't hate us for it, but they're not all fun and little, not little fuzzy little animals, coyotes. They are just they destroy a lot of stuff. And so I guess moving forward, educate yourself before you get on a keyboard and start hammering us about, you guys are sick, you're mean. Educate yourself. I mean, this is how these guys make a living. That's how they've made a living, and they're putting food on the table for me and you. With
Right.
People don't understand it. I don't know. A lot of people don't understand where their food comes from. It's from farm to ranch. Yeah, it shows up in the grocery store, but it's got to get from point A to point B to get to that grocery store.
Dude, ain't that the truth? Uh,
So,
I love that. One last question I want to ask you. You say you raise dogs and you sell them.
right,
What
yep.
what what do you charge for your pups?
Well, right now we don't have any pups for sale. We typically, our last batch of pups we sold for $900 a pup. That was our last Maggie. That was her fifth or sixth litter, and our vet said that's her last time you should breed her.
Yeah.
He said you could probably breed her, but you probably start seeing some, implications and this and that. So I mean, we just quit breeding her, but we kept a female out of her, and she'll be 2 this spring, and her name is Denali. You'll be seeing a lot of her hunting coyotes here this spring and this summer. She's a awesome dog, but she hasn't come into a hard heat yet. So I don't know if maybe we kept one that, for some reason, I mean, we've never not had them come into heat, but I'm sure she'll come in, but we'll be having, so probably the spring of 24 would be my guess of having a pup, of having pups with her. But it's a lot of work having pups. I mean, it's like chasing a bunch of teenagers around. And my wife she handles all of it. She's great at it. But so yeah, there's so right now we don't have 8 pups. We get a lot of people asking. We probably get 2 or 3 a day that'll message us or email us or whatever. And they'll be, hey, you got a pup, or can you sell us you know, I don't get the thing of people saying, hey, you got a 2-year-old dog. That's one thing about these curs is your best if your job and your life you're in will allow you to get your dog right at 8, 9 weeks. And if you can have him or her for 2 weeks with you, like if you can, that's the most crucial time because they are the most loyal and bondingest dog you'll ever find.
Wow. That's awesome.
Fight a lion off.
I love it. I love it. Well, so hopefully soon, one day, you and I are going to be able to get to chase some coyotes together
Right.
and celebrate some good times, our freedom, live that freedom life.
Right.
Brother, thank you so much for being on the podcast, sharing all
Oh,
your.
buddy, thanks for having me, man. I truly enjoyed it. And sorry I had to bail on you that day because I got sick, but like couldn't wait to get on here, man. I love talking, hunting with people and meeting new people. And if you're ever in our country, the door's always open.
I appreciate that, brother. You are a good one. I really appreciate it. You be blessed this coming year, man. Dude, 2023, brother. It's going to be an awesome year.
It is.
2023 adds up to 7. 7's the number of completion. It's all come together.
Right.
It's going to be
Right.
beautiful. All right, everybody, thank you so much for tuning in to this episode. If you liked it, please give it a thumbs up, share, subscribe, pass it along. We want to create as much community with all of you as possible, so don't feel bad. If you want to reach out, hit us up on soulseekersnation.com. Go to the Contact Us page or get a hold of us on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, any of that good stuff. Guys, be blessed. Be of good cheer. Know that life is happening for you. It's not happening to you. Mentorship is conservation. And as always, everybody, freedom on and stay soulful. If you enjoyed today's podcast and want to support the show, you can always like, share, subscribe, and leave a rating as it helps us share our mission of mentorship is conservation. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of Soul Seekers Nation as we transform lives through primal adventure. If you want to get more connected with the podcast, check out the Soul Seekers Nation Facebook group, as I look forward to connecting with you on the next episode. So stay tuned and stay soulful.